I, Komal Gavri, on behalf of NTT NetMagic and PVR Systems, feel absolute honor to bring you this event, Digital Charcha with CIOs, which will surely hold immense importance in today's difficult times in which we all are in. As they say, yesterday is a history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is the gift of God, which is why we call it a present. So we all must be optimistic and hope that sun will rise and shine again upon us. With this thought, I move further and brief you about the event. So the theme of the event is relevant with what is happening around us, that is digital vaccination for COVID-19. This is a humble attempt from our side to provide an open forum for the CIOs across different verticals, such as education, pharma, manufacturing, to name a few, to discuss the way out for the IT sector, how to cope up with the changing ecosystem, and most importantly, to share their glorious transformation journey with us that will surely be an inspiration for many present in the room. The dignitaries will discuss upon the changing trends of the technology along with future of the IT infrastructure in the coming years. It is my immense pleasure to introduce you with our eminent director duo, Mr. Vijay Kumar and Mr. Rohit Kumar, whose grit, passion to succeed, and hard work for almost 2 decades has positioned PVR as one of the market leaders from the stage of infancy in early 2000s to today, standing tall as an organization with approx 100 crore turnover is not an easy feat to achieve. All credit to them and the competent team at PVR who have made this possible. Now I would like to call upon Ms. Achal for briefing us about PVR systems.
Thank you so much, Komal. PVR Systems in the last decade has shown mercurial growth from a turnover of merely 0.16 crore to approx 100 crore. As mentioned earlier, is a testament to our success. Over the years in this journey, we associated with some of the most prestigious names across verticals, be it MIT University, Oberoi Hotels, etc., from education and hospitality to big shots from FMCG sector such as KFC, HUL, etc., and many more have joined the bandwagon and have filled our canvas with different colors. We are fortunate OEMs to have collaborated with big brands over the years that have contributed equally for our success and have solidified our position in the market. Now, I would like to call up Komal for further proceedings.
Thank you so much, Achal. So as we know that every brand has a story to tell and a story to sell. So the intent to foster this session is to provide an open forum where the CIOs of different company will get the opportunity to speak on the agenda that how they will save the organization in this pandemic crisis and what would be their suggestions to others on digital transformation. So PVR Systems in collaboration with NetMagic is coming up with this innovative and informative session. Now, I would like to introduce you with the brainchild of our event, none other than our business head, Mr. Gunjan Datta, recipient of prestigious Rashtrapati Award. Mr. Datta, with his experience of 14 years in the industry across different verticals and associating with some of the big shots of the industry, such as Microsoft, is the right person with the correct blend of technical as well as marketing expertise to host this event. I would like to call upon Mr. Gunjan Datta for further proceedings of the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Komal. I'm really feel glad and I welcome all the distinguished guests and our OEM NetMagic officials for this platform. And we really feel privileged to have today's discussion with you all. The brainchild of this particular event, when we just thought about this pandemic situation where we all are facing problem, we all are facing day-to-day life is hell right now in common man to the rich man. But one person from the business standpoint, they are superhero. They are the person who save our business from the day one when the lockdown was started in India. They are our CIOs. They give the digital vaccination for against this COVID-19 for the business. So we just really wants to hear from their story, and we very much excited today that how they saved their businesses from this pandemic. Over to you, Komal.
Thank you so much, sir. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce and welcome our moderator for today's session, Mr. Prasenjit Roy. Mr. Prasenjit has more than 2.5 decades of experience on the business side, spanning across several multinationals in India and abroad. An accomplished and dynamic strategic marketing and strategy specialist, he is a council member and mentor to NASSCOM's 10,000 Startups program and council member of CII. He has advanced degrees in engineering and business management and also did a postgraduate certificate course in modern information system from IIT Mumbai. Currently, he is the Senior Executive Vice President Marketing at NTT NetMagic. I would like to call upon Mr. Prasenjit Roy to share his words with us. Over to you, sir.
Hi. Thanks, Komal. Thanks for the introduction. Appreciate the kind introduction. A very good afternoon, esteemed panelists and the audience members. Let me extend a very warm welcome and thank each of the CIOs, Jay, Sanjeev, Manoj, Mudit, and Nishant, our esteemed panelists, for being part of the discussion today. I'll take this time to take you through the construct of the panel discussion. We have a great mix of speakers from very diverse spectrum across different verticals, representing the different form, shape, size of the corporate bandwagon. Let me give you a brief about the flow of the panel discussion. Each of the panel members will be requested to share their perspectives on 4 different occasions during the webinar. In the panel discussion, I would set the context and then invite each of the panel members for their opening remarks. They would speak on the impact of COVID-19 for maximum of 2 to 3 minutes, their initial perspectives, their digital transformation journey they have embarked upon in the last couple of months in this unprecedented scenario, and how as a company and as a business, they have coped with the Black Swan event. In the second part of the discussion, I would have a couple of questions for each of the panel members. I would really appreciate if examples and storytelling narrative would be incorporated in their response. In the third part, I'm going to throw the floor open and invite questions from the audience. Sincerely hope there are some good questions coming in because we have got very good registrations till now. Request the audience to kindly also specify the panel member to whom the question is addressed to. Here I will take the help of Komal and Shitesh to pick up the questions from the question bank. In the concluding part of this panel discussion, I would bring the conversation back to the panel and request each one of the panelists to sum up in a minute or so their concluding remarks, their parting shot, what message they would like to leave behind for the community, their domain, how to strengthen the digital immunity of the organizations through the uncharted terrain as it unfolds over the next several quarters. I would now hand over to Komal for introduction of each of the panel members. Over to you, Komal.
Thank you so much, sir. So before I start with the panelists, I will like to introduce Mr. Shantaram Shinde, and he is VP Business Development and National Head for Channel Business. Shantaram Shinde is VP Business Development and National Head for Channel Business at NTT NetMagic. He has been instrumental and key contributor to organization growth from year 2000 at NTT NetMagic. He played various roles at NTT NetMagic over a period of last 17 years and is responsible for channel business for NTT NetMagic effective from April 2017 and has organization mandate to take 10-year-old channel business for NTT NetMagic to a great heights. All through his 23 years of career, he mainly worked in IT services industry. NTT NetMagic's passion and commitment to deliver value to clients by building a customer-focused service, he successfully delivered in various roles, including Regional Head for West, Regional Head for North, Strategic Outsourcing Services BD role, and Remote Data Center Management BD role nationally before moving to National Channel Head role. Mr. Shantaram is an engineering graduate, BE in Electronics, DMS from SIMSR, Mumbai University, and SMP from IIM Calcutta. Also, we have with us Mr. Jamil, from NetMagic. He is GM Sales, heading North Sales Force, and Mr. Girish, he is Senior Manager and Product Manager for Key Services in NetMagic. Now, starting with the introduction of the panelists. So, Mr. Sanjeev is having over 30 years experience in managing all aspects of IT infrastructure, application management, and systems administration. He is having insightful knowledge of business process analysis, design, re-engineering, cost control, IT leadership and direction, and ensures continuous development and execution of strategies, enabling a forward-looking organization by selecting right business solutions, technology adaptation for better internal customer satisfaction, and managing procurement, negotiating contracts, and monitoring service legal agreements. He's self-motivated and directed in motivating team in a collaborative environment. So with this, I once again welcome Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Jain to this event.
Thank you. I've seen this nearly 50 days vacation past 30 years of career that we are sitting at home and doing all the activities from the home. So this is a new thing it is a new norm which has come up into our thing. And it has really given us a new paradigm in IT world where things have changed dramatically over a period of week itself. So I would just like to take certain things that how the things have really happened in my organization and how we have taken care of this particular thing in the team. So when this particular thing came up, we were just planning out for that lockdown to come. It might come after a week or so or 15 days. But all of a sudden, the decision for the lockdown came up as a surprise to us, everybody. And everybody was taken as a shock. So things which were undergoing for the planning for the lockdown could not be really completed in time. And unfortunately, the data center which we have is all in-premise. Every application is in-premise application. And our data center was into a quarantine zone or a red zone at that particular moment of time. And it became a big challenge for us to really get into the data center to cater to the services so that the services are not down. We are keeping our fingers crossed throughout the time that there should not be any power outage so that our servers are not being affected by this particular thing. So we had a bit hard time during this period when the things were going on. And unfortunately, we had an incident, one of our mailing server, which was in-premise, went down. And within, I think, so 4 hours of time, we moved all our messaging system immediately onto a cloud hosted system and moved all the users. It was a nightmare for us because everything was to be redone from scratch. The server was to be migrated to the cloud. All the installation of the people, end users, messaging was to be done, configured, every SMTP and everything changed. So it took us a marathon job for next 24 hours. My team were always on and they were just guiding the users how to really take that particular thing. Bandwidth was becoming a big challenge for every individual because everybody was using their mobile networks or DSL connectivity at home to download those things. We were not having a very strong IT setup in terms of security because we are a single customer based organization where we were doing the things. So we never gave any access of our applications to the users outside the premise of the company. So we had to configure VPN services for all the employees who were accessing the things from home. So that was a nightmare for us. We configured VPN in nearly 150 nodes over a period of 2 days so that people are able to access the ERP. They were able to access the desktops which they had, so the data can be turned out from there. So it was a really big change in our life during this thing. And IT all of a sudden came into limelight, which in a manufacturing organization sometimes is treated as a support department. So that was a thing which we had during this period. Security became a big norm for us, that how to control that what people are accessing, what they are downloading, whether the laptops or the personal computers which they are using at home are being not affected by any malware or anything, so that should not travel to our servers and then putting the things into rest. So we had to take a lot of efforts in making the things strong, so that people should not get into our server with some malware things or any part of it, and do a good job. So that, I think so, is one thing which I would like to share. And as the ball keeps on rolling, we'll be talking about more on the period coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to start with the second panelist, Mr. Manoj Kant, CIO, Prudent Insurance Broker.
Somewhere I had seen a message in my WhatsApp group when this lockdown initiated, that who led the digital transformation of the company, and the option was CEO, CTO, and COVID-19, and the answer was COVID-19. Anyway, so glad to be here for sharing the experience of my digital transformation journey. Since you have asked how the company and the business has coped up with this Black Swan event, then I would like to start congratulating my board for having a futuristic vision, which has actually supported me make my company more resilient and prepared for this pandemic situation. While knowing the fact that the world is currently experiencing such an unprecedented crisis, this is causing really chaos in global economy, disrupting supply chains, and at the same time, it is also important for everyone to understand that actually it is transforming society also. And I am very happy to say this, since day one, more than 90% of our strength working from home with all security measures. I have remembered last 3 years back when actually we were trying to introduce all security measures at the endpoint level and decided to moving on cloud and everything was taking into a different kind of a discussion that why don't we should create our own setup and all those things. So thank God, we completely moved to this cloud. In fact, I can say accessibility point of view, the remote access is available for everyone. Only I can say less than the 10% of the man force who actually doesn't need any kind of a mobile force, and because of certain security reasons that were only confined to access desktops within the offices. We are kept on increasing our footprint towards making us more cyber secure and resilient. So we have taken too many initiatives, few are under implementation, few are under evaluation phase. So if you will ask me what the digital vaccination is for COVID-19, then I would say the mantra should become more and more resilient, because today more or less you may find me talking more and more about how we can be more resilient. The stages how we should work to be more resilient is to prepare, monitor, take action, sustain and recover. During this pandemic, this is the only ways that you can become more resilient. And businesses need to prioritize business continuity, incident response and recovery activities. Since I'm coming from a BFSI domain, so it's very important to work together with regulators, and it's important to work with regulators to define a reasonable timeline to restore their availability along with organization's compliance state to an acceptable level. So if you will ask me that how we have done this, what is our journey? So I will tell you that we work towards fostering a culture of cyber resilience. Our board took the responsibility of its oversight and instilling the cultural shift within the organization. We promoted resilience by design. When I say by design, then it means from the outset of both risk and implications, monitored and managed proactively across IT and business processes changes. So, we started thinking go beyond compliance, which means to come out from the checkbox mindset. We are working continuously and rigorously to strengthen our resilience employee behaviors, doing continuous improvement programs, assessments, campaigning, creating an awareness. Because the new reality is accelerating business model transformation at a faster pace than ever before comes essential in case if really we want to ensure our existence and survival in such a crisis for which no one has prepared. So it's a very important. It's a very important for everyone to understand. It's not a kind of a situation that we will come out within a small timeline. Business resilience is actually maintaining a trust through COVID-19 disruption, this I can say, and which I have seen within our clientele also. We have built those level of trust. See, I've just finished by stating a few stats, which has been done by various agencies. So, the latest agencies, basic, the latest survey done by the agency, Basics. According to Basics, 80% of large companies worldwide are ill prepared for business continuity in the event of pandemic event. And even if I say business continuity is very important, that how we were planning 30%, 25%. No one even thinking that 100%. So, as per the Continuity Central, 72% of multinational companies have yet to prepare for a pandemic. And as per Gartner, a pandemic can result in possible staff absenteeism exceeding 40% of extended and sequential periods. So like Sanjeev was talking about, 50 days of vacation and all those things. What do I think? Like it's not like a vacation where you have to do your, internal homework and you have to do some family works also. And at the same time, you have to perform also. So then a time has come now where everyone will be just how much time you are investing to getting the work done will not be important. It will be important that how effectively you are performing your job. As per the Canadian Center for Occupational Health and Safety, a pandemic is not a one-time event, and periods of illness may come in 2-3 waves, anywhere from 3 to 12 months apart. But the total duration of a pandemic is likely to be 12 to 18 months. So we will have to be prepared for that. As per the EY Global Risk Survey, they say 79% board members state that their organizations are not very well prepared to deal with a crisis event. So, what I can say that how we build the entire culture internally, year by year, and thinking in that perspective that all our mobile, workforce should be mobile. It's not so, we work in more than 90 plus countries with a kind of a partner network. So I will just give you one small example. In Poland, one of our, broker, I think formed in 1927. And just after this declaring this pandemic situation, because, there was a trend to consolidate at one business location as much as you can. And because of that, their operations completely stopped. So we will have to now think in a different perspective, like how we spread it across different geographical locations. So suppose right now, my Bangalore and Gurgaon office is working while Pune and Bombay office is not working, Chennai is not working. And similarly, too many offices are not working while 2 offices are working, and, the people are going there also. So these, I can say, my intake towards this COVID-19.
Thank you so much, sir. So now starting with the next panelist, Mr. Mudit Agarwal, CIO and VP UFlex. Mudit Agarwal is a business value focused CIO with an experience of close to 25 years spanning across multiple industries like FMCG, foods, telecom, and manufacturing, and having worked with companies like Unilever, Domino's Pizza, Bharti Airtel, Dalmia Group, and Tata Teleservices in his prior assignments. He has done his bachelor in engineering from Birla Institute of Technology, Ranchi, and MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. Additionally, he has gone through various executive and leadership development programs from ISB Hyderabad, Center for Creative Leadership, IIM Ahmedabad, and Tata Management Training Center. Mr. Mudit has driven large operations and strategic transformation initiatives involving core business applications like ERP, CRM, and digital initiatives around analytics, RPA, mobile applications, intranet, and e-commerce. Information security and business continuity management also. He is an active speaker at universities, educational institutes, and also at prominent industry forums. He is a strong believer of business and IT partnership and has driven the IT function at UFlix by appropriately aligning the organization with the various business functions and divisions. Mudit has consolidated the IT function into one cohesive customer-focused entity and is building the foundation for a more process-oriented approach, which helps create a resilient organization that is ahead of the competition in this digital era. Despite his busy schedule, Mudit often likes to experiment his hands at cooking new dishes, watch movies, and tend to his garden. So with this, I once again welcome Mr. Mudit Agarwal to the event, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Komal. Thank you, Komal, for the nice introduction. And good afternoon to everybody who's there on this forum. I think what Sanjeev said and what Luke said, are very, very relevant points, in the times that we are going through. What I would also like to add to that is that, while this time is like a threat to us, it's scaring us. People are afraid of venturing out. We don't know what the future holds for us. At the same time, every threat brings with it an opportunity. So what is the opportunity? I think the opportunity is to review what we have done so far, how we are going to do things in future, be it in our personal lives, be it in our professional lives. I think it's time to review all of that. For some people who have been at home, for people who have not been at home and they have been out, working and, who are so-called the frontline warriors, or, may not be the frontline warriors, but otherwise also supporting the entire, ways of working in the country. I think it's very, very important that we review all of that at this point in time and see what is it that we need to do going forward. That's one way to look at it. I think when we are talking of digitalization, strategies from an organization standpoint, the foremost thing that comes to everybody's mind is about being able to work from everywhere. Not only home, it's like about being able to work from everywhere or anywhere for that matter, right? Now, there were organizations and there are still organizations who had always had some kind of a culture or a way of working where they encourage some people or some employees to work from home. But let me give you a perspective which is slightly different, because I come from an industry which is heavily into manufacturing. Now, manufacturing, and not only manufacturing, we are manufacturing packaging material, which becomes an essential part of the value chain when we talk of the goods and services that have to be provided to the users, consumers, citizens of the country in times like these. If people need food products on their table when everything is locked down, you need packaging material. Despite all the ills against plastic, everybody talking things against it, it is plastic which is saving people at this point in time. Not that I'm proposing or being a proponent of that. All I'm trying to say is that packaging becomes such an important ingredient to make products being available at home for people to live through these times. Now, so for us, it was very, very unprecedented, a sudden lockdown, plants being not able to operate, people not being able to come. We can't work from home. We can't produce from home. To be able to produce the material, people will have to come to the plant. People will have to produce it, right? So there's only a section of people in our organization who could work from home, but others will have to be there physically. So it's not only about, how can you enable the organization to work from home? It's also being able to enable people to come to office, to come to the manufacturing locations and work from there. That's one element. Second element is we faced one of the major challenges was a disruption in the supply chain, in the logistics. While we, so we had to, actually stop manufacturing for a couple of days till things kind of settled down and the dust settled and people figured out how things can work. And some exception permissions started coming in from the government and the magistrates, etc., etc. that yes, within limited number of people and limited capacity, you can start producing. But then we had a disruption in the supply chain, in the logistics. Transporters were not available. Raw material was not available. There was no one to carry the goods along. There were disruptions along all transportation lines, on the roads, everywhere in the country. So that was the reality of the situation. Fortunately, things have settled down now. Things are operational. But having said that, I think what is important, since when we talk about technology as CIOs, is how do we draw learnings from each of these things? What is it that we can do to be prepared for future? As far as we are concerned, we were always ready. Our people, whoever could not reach but could work from home, they were already enabled. They were able to log in from their home into our systems, do carry out transactions, and that was there. So they were enabled throughout. Did we have a challenge? Yes, we did have a challenge in terms of the capacity, but we ramped up those capacities. We had not planned for everybody being not available. That is something which no one had done, and that's why when I said that BCPs actually fell short because no one had a BCP which had imagined 100% lockdown. Everybody had imagined or visualized a situation when only maybe one plant is not working, one office is not working. You can move to an alternative location, you can work from somewhere else. But 100% disruption, no one had imagined. So all BCPs actually faltered here. All BCPs kind of failed. And that's why the situation became actually unprecedented for all of us. And of course, on top of it, the kind of fear that it generated, everybody was, of course, scared initially, at least. I think now people are coming to terms with it. And people are learning to live with the situation. From a digital journey, I would not like to look at a digital journey of an organization only from a perspective of a couple of months or these last couple of months. I think what's more important is, as an organization, what are we doing in the digitalization space? We are looking at process automations, robotic process automations in the areas of invoicing, order management, etc. We have used IoT, bundled IoT in our own machinery, packaging machinery. We have developed platforms which are e-commerce platforms for selling our own product, and which are being fairly well. We get good amount of footfall there. So I think we are well poised to take on our digital journey. We have already embarked on that, and yes, only these times like COVID and these kind of disruption, only re-emphasize and assert more on the fact that yes, an organization will have to be nimble enough. Organization will have to be cognizant of the fact that disruptions will happen. Disruptions are going to be a way of life going forward, and hence be prepared for it. I think that's all I have to say. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So now starting with the next panelist, Mr. Jaiprakash Sharma, EVP InfoEdge. He's highly successful. He's having highly successful track record actually of driving enterprise digital strategy and process transformation in organizations with a powerful blend of technology, vision, and business. He's having 20 plus years of entrepreneur spirited technologist and hands-on experience includes in enterprise IT, infrastructure, architecture, and technical operations. He's a certified expert from Microsoft and MySQL, Red Hat, Checkpoint, etc. He also holds certifications in enterprise project management and Six Sigma Green Belt and many more. He specialized in building high-performing IT team and developing multi-year corporate strategies that create business value with delivery roadmaps. With this, I once again welcome Mr. Jaiprakash to the event. And now I request the panelists to please give a brief of about 2 to 3 minutes about your views, since we are running short in time. And over to you, sir.
Thank you, Komal. Thank you, Komal, NetMagic team, PVR team, for welcoming me here. I should start like very buzzwords which has been rotating around the market, which has started with some. I had tried to summarize from some of the readings and say like, okay, it is ABCD. When I say like, what is ABCD? A is certainly the start, but the buzzword starts from B actually. So we used to hear a lot about business analytics, blockchains, bots, robots, big data. There are a lot many B's coming into the and one fine day this requirement of BCP also came in here. I mean, as such, like the BCP word is not a new word for all of us. But practically, truthfully, how many Indian organization, at least I'm talking or representing an Indian organization. So I would say like how many Indian organization actually accepted BCP as a real need of the hour, unless until this COVID has hit. So there is another thing like which I call it like C, which is I personally consider as C as in change, which was always a constant. It always keep coming. But this time, this C has forced us to learn a lot of things, because this C is not only change, this is a COVID. And this has actually forced us to look the complete business from another form, complete form, like which we used to hear in the past as well, which I represent with the D. This is nothing but digital transformation. I mean, certainly like many organizations, so far we were talking about the advancement in the product, the digitalization in the payment, the taxi service, many other things. I mean, everything is available. Most of these human needs services are available over the mobile app at this moment. But actually, now the talk is only about C, and this C is not only change, but this is also a COVID, which has impacted most of us in a big manner. So technology is certainly going to be a differentiating factor, as specifically post-COVID. So when we say like post-COVID, what exactly is post-COVID? So we have already entered into lockdown 4 situation. And to be very honest, is there going to be another version 5, 6 or 7? We don't know. It is going to be unfolded, right? So there are many things like which this this session, at least like couple of months, has taught us. As an organization, trust me, like our business is completely online. So we got little advantage in terms of like at least getting ourselves prepared from a technology front for such situations where I can call it, or like people normally say it, like from a technology standpoint, probably my BCPDR is ready. My BCPDR was ready. I was prepared. Only thing, the differentiator was it was being practiced during the drill time, not even any real-time situation. But yeah, this COVID actually has given us the opportunity, I would say, to test the complete organization BCP. And trust me, like nobody was prepared for this. This has brought a lot of lessons learned. Even if we as an organization, I see, if I see in the past, like what all basic preparatory work which I had done, which has helped me to, easily adopt and bring the business to as usual stage during the lockdown situation. Trust me, all those things like, VPN requirement, work from home, which people used to say, applications need to be available on multi-platform. All those things were there. But only thing was like we were testing those things. The licenses were quite limited. So during the situation, within a week's time frame, I mean, I still remember 22nd of March when the lockdown had started. We actually in the organization, we thank you to our all board members who has given and helped us, and that kind of confidence that we started actually practicing the work from home feature before the lockdown started. So in the month of in just before like 22nd of March, we had before that week we had actually started practicing work from home, and specifically for the audience, like which we were knowing these are not tech savvy audience. So when I say like most of the organization, it is based on, technology is the enabler, and most of the technology people, like they had faced a very little challenge, because like these are few things like they used to practice then and there. work from home, connect the VPN, come on the collaboration side, do the file sharing remotely, ensure like these are the few basic security practices which you need to follow. But the biggest challenge for us as well brought in when we started looking into the business side of it, and the call center was one of the showstoppers. So like obviously like as like the regulations, the compliance for call centers, we cannot move it to cloud. I mean, certainly the relaxation has came now, and now we had started working on that kind of modeling. But because of the DOT rule regulations, like you can't terminate the PRI on data. So those were some of the challenges. Certainly was a big learning for us. So initially we started taking up the calls from the mobile for call centers. We had just started arranging all the desktops which were in place, because earlier call center used to be always in a seated mode, right? And it has to be within the office. So like move the complete call center application into, break it into an agent mode, and bring that application closer to the agent where he is available. Those kind of things were certainly a big learning for us. We are still learning out of that. There were from many of such cases, like where since mostly on call centers, like you will see the young generation folks or college pass out folks comes up. So like those are mostly either staying on a PG or maybe on some rented accommodation. And because of like whatever the pandemic which has been created, the situation, I mean, most of these kind of PGs has been come onto a closer side of it, which has started impacting some of the business factors. So these were our basic challenges, which we had learned. And then this bring your own device come into the picture, because like many places we can't take the desktops and make it available for those agents. At the same time, this is I'm talking about from the call center perspective, but if you'll see it from other side of it, like there is another big department in most of the organizations, which is human resource folks, administration folks, finance folks. I mean, finance is another thing, like where unless until you are completely on paperless kind of mode, I mean, it's very difficult for you to survive in the industry. And this is one of the lessons learned during this program. I mean, there were delays in terms of like all the financial processes. There were new process adoption has started. There were new licenses which we need to procure. And trust me, like these are the opportunity. And where like I say, there are many things like which used to, which was a basic things for your during which could able to help us in during this resiliency. And maybe because of some cost factor was not getting approved. Trust me, it was just within a week's time, like all those approvals gone to the CEO table, and most of things has been already approved. Okay, from a budgeting standpoint, because business has to run as usual. So I'm certainly talking like not something like which wasn't too much of spending, but it was a diligent spending, I would say. So like we had certainly after that, like we had started coming up and started framing out, sensitizing every business unit head to ensure that what you are, how can you keep the things in a controlled manner, where the cash burn should be for the required stuff rather than regular activity.
So the crux of this panel discussion theme is pivoted around digital vaccination. So in a normal context, a vaccine is administered by a doctor to produce immunity. In the corporate parlance, we would, over the course of this discussion, unravel how the CIOs in their respective organizations have injected the immunity dose to their businesses. The global pandemic has highlighted and illustrated the importance of why the cloud was a natural fit for business continuity, as businesses have been up and running quickly from anywhere. In the current COVID situation, many organizations have already actively activated their BCP to quickly enable their staff to work from home by leveraging cloud agility and scale. A cloud-based DR has enabled companies to quickly speed up the recovery time. The cloud option has also enabled companies to automatically provide access to services from any part in the world. Let us look at another dimension. For essential services like BFSI and healthcare, as there was a drastic increase in the workforce and customers were joining the company, networks from home, hackers ramped up their efforts to take advantage of the inadequate or loose security posture. We would learn from the esteemed panel members what they had done to strengthen the remote access management policy and procedures to identify and deflect threats before the hackers could have taken advantage of. From the business ICT industry perspective where we come from, let me share some observations over the last 2-3 months. Some emerging themes that we have observed. One is the enhanced digital customer experience all around, as in-person interaction has really dropped. Business continuity, not only analyzing the performance of existing plans, but also finding out how to remedy the gaps. Digital collaboration, so does intense scrutiny of security gaps. Work and play online, a huge surge. VDI for work and esports and OTT gets a big boost. And also another dimension is EdTech to support new modes of instruction and evaluation. We have found opportunities in several sectors, be it connectivity, be it virtual infrastructure, be it data and cloud security, collaboration tools, support services, managed services, and business continuity, to name a few. Triggered by COVID-19, we are fully cognizant of the fact that some of the businesses have already embarked on digital transformation. They have migrated to cloud services. They have consumed burstable bandwidth. They have adopted collaboration tools and virtual infrastructure and deployed secured enterprise application access. We would be very keen to know from the technical experts today in the panel, their journey in their respective domain, what roadblocks did they encounter, and how they navigated those to reach their desired goals. So to help business navigate successfully through the current pandemic, we have put together this digital Charcha platform that will help organizations learn how businesses can be resilient during these challenging times. Without further ado, let me set the ball rolling. I would go to the questions straight away. My first question is to Jay. So Jay, thanks for your initial perspective, your insights, talking about the buzzword ABCD. And you have clearly outlined that tech is really a differentiator, is an enabler. So thanks for your initial insights into the topic. My first question to you, Jay, is Naukri and 99acres together account for nearly 60% of InfoEdge valuations. Now, with both the business getting impacted under the current scenario, what are some of the critical initiatives that the group company has taken to address it? Over to you, Jay.
Thank you, Prasenjit. Recently, I think this question has also asked, similar question has been asked with Hitesh as well. And what he has publicly addressed, I would use the similar kind of words.
Sure.
Our focus is specifically now on improving the customer experience and innovation, which can help us to create further more products. So when we say like what this is going to help, because at this moment, the market has certainly been surged. So we had started with certain initiatives. If I need to take some of the example, like Step Up is one of the example, like which you started seeing like it is rotating around everywhere. So such kind of Step Up is one initiative. Eco is another initiative. These are the code names like which we had started taking initiatives on, and these are basically helping and are trying to get more insight through which we at least use our data in all the senses, which can able to help me bring a new product, help the actual needies at this moment. Trust me, like this COVID is going to affect many of the jobs where like many of the people are going to get affected. So through this initiative, we are trying to reach out to all our existing customers as well. And also we are advertising, like in case if you have been got affected and you are get impacted with this COVID situation, help me with your data, what all specifically like you are looking out, which location you are, what kind of role you are in, and then basis that like we provide a career guidance as well. so that like they would be better prepared. At the same time, this is from the job seeker side. From the recruiter side, at the same time, we are trying to circulate those things and connecting those resumes, those profiles along with the organization where the need of resources are there. So we are trying to map it, coming up with a different strategy altogether, so that like we can address those things from a 99 acres perspective. Trust me, like that is one thing like which has been badly impacted across India, and rather I would say across the world. So at this moment again, we are trying to work on the more insight on the data which we have at this moment to see like what kind of blue ocean strategy we can come up with. What all things like which can able to bring more visibility from a customer and from the promoters or the developers side. So these are few things like from a product perspective, we are trying to go. So Hitesh also says like we are sitting on a gold mine on all the vertical because it is a data. The gold mine is nothing but it is a data. So we are trying to play around like we have AI ML kind of things like which we are working, but like yeah, come up with some more new ideation which can able to help sustain the business. So that's our focus.
Thanks, Jay. It was very insightful. Thanks for the comprehensive response. Gunjan, should we check on Nishant or would I go ahead?
We can check with Nishant once again. Nishant, are you there? Nishant? I hope there isn't some network issue with Nishant.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is everyone able to listen to me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now much more better.
So I just changed my device.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah, Nishant.
I just got disconnected for a moment. Is there a question that you've thrown across to me?
Not at all. We are just willing to listen you for your opening speech, and then probably we can go for a questionnaire. Or Prasenjit, you can ask a question, and then probably we can go ahead with the charcha, because you know the subject and the topic we are doing a charcha.
Yeah.
It's not a formal discussion.
Yeah. So Nishant, if you can have a quick, your opening remarks, a couple of minutes or so.
I would love that. It would just take me a couple of minutes to briefly introduce what I was saying initially. See, digital transformation journey is fairly new at Aqualite. It's a core manufacturing organization, and they had the journey started with them when they decided to move ahead and have SAP as an ERP with them, and they looked forward to growing organically as an organization which has more connectivity, and it all fell in the path of a way where they came across. We were blessed with private funding for around 250 crores that we received from private investors, and that ensured confidence within the organization that we were in the right path and we were going in the right direction. So that spun off a very fast track for the organization, where they wanted to transform the whole company, where they have more connectivity and where they could consolidate things in a much better manner. So then came the decision for the ERP implementation, which was going on, and we just finished the SAP implementation in the last quarter of the previous financial year, which was again a very challenging task for us. Then further to that, suddenly in mid-March, it became a situation that we were going to be shut down. And as you understand that footwear is a part of a fashion industry, and also it has cycles and it has seasons. We have open footwear, we have closed footwear, and every footwear has a definite cycle to it. And this is the time where the entire open footwear market was coming into picture. We are one of the market leaders in that. So although we had stocks, we had buffer with us, everything with us, but certainly in this juncture, in this moment, things were a little difficult. We had an oversight on this. We had taken an oversight on this, and in terms of how network security and how system security should be taken up. So we already had all our systems on VPN. We had our firewalls updated. We had everything in place. And as the plants shut down, yes, definitely, it was a manufacturing loss. It was a loss in the core season time for us. But importantly, in that phase, it turned out as a blessing because we took a lot of optimization exercises with our in-house servers, right? So in that optimization exercises, we optimized the SAP, we optimized our other softwares and services which we were using internally in the organization. So that being said, and now this is one part of the transformation journey which was continuing. The second very important part of the transformation journey that happened was that as this being a core manufacturing facility, every decision was almost taken on paper before this. So everybody had to sit on a board meeting, had to sit together, and at the end of the day, every decision was being made on pen and paper. So once we came into this, there was a transformation in terms of decision making also. We moved towards more digital modes of having meeting like we having right now. Then we looked into the secure modes of having meetings also. There were security concerns as to having private conversations over the internet and whatnot. So I would say that I am very proud that the management over here and the entire board over here took a fundamental step that yes, we can do more productive meetings digitally over the internet, and we can have more fruitful sessions over here. So yes, a lot of decisions, a lot of meetings for the next financial year, top level meetings, all the board meetings, they were conducted, and it's still going on. As in this case, as we are having to adhere to the government norms in terms of how manufacturing has to happen, how the offices are to be operated. I would say that we were pretty much in place.
Okay. Wow.
Sure, Nishan.
Sessions. Yep. That's what I would have to say.
Thanks, Nishan. Thanks. I'll now move over to Manoj. Manoj, thanks for your opening remarks, and I absolutely love the phrase that you use, resilience by design. Okay, so apt and pertinent. So Manoj, my first question to you is, IRDA has asked insurers to come with new need-based products for the COVID-19 pandemic, and for which few insurers have come up with such need-based specific products to cater to the current requirement. How are you differentiating or innovating for superior product portfolio for your business?
See, Prasenajit, if you will ask me, then I will tell you one thing. During this, I can say too many insurers initially came with products. A lot of products were introduced, and unfortunately, at the same time, withdrawn as well. Still very few insurers are offering them now.
Manoj sir, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. May I have you on screen? Can you just switch on your video, please? It is easy for us to get a live streaming with you. Yeah.
So it's a very different situation right now. Mostly insurers were unprepared and were having kind of a short-term products have launched, having lesser sum-insured kind of a thing for especially from the this COVID kind of a situation. So I will just give you an example, okay, which you can so you will understand that how this entire scenario is actually going to set up once the maturity will come. That important point, what you will have to understand, I will give you an example of Wimbledon.
Mm-hmm.
So Wimbledon reportedly paid $2 million as insurance premium for last 17 years. Okay, to guard against the losses due to AOG, political risks, pandemics, and total $34 million have been paid without experiencing single losses. Wimbledon paid. Now, for the coronavirus resulting into cancelling the tournament in 2020, they are receiving $141 million.
Yes.
As a compensation. So if we compound the premium with interest, the till date compounded outflow is not more than $40 million. So this is a Wimbledon wisdom, which we can say. Okay. It's in not treating the annual premium as a worthless expense, cost of a whole in company's entire P&L. So, in fact, I don't know whether you remembered or not. You must have heard that Trump were also saying in one of a press conference that their company should go to any insurers to check whether the losses can be covered under BI or not.
Yes.
So, from the larger audience perspective, I just would like to, set few things here. So, for everyone's clarity as well. As of now in India, if you will ask me, do we have any proper pandemic coverage, with any product which is being sold as per the IRDA guidelines in India? Then I can say yes, it's available under business interruption, but it's a very nominal cover, which is 1,000 to 2,000 US dollar. That's it. Okay. Other than you can't get any coverages under BI policy. So BI policy triggers in India only if there is a physical damage or destruction of the property. So if there is no physical destruction, so obviously that definitely we will have to face the losses. So we have heard too many manufacturing concerns also, and from the HR's concerns also. So how do I see, if you will ask me, thinking business resiliency, doing all kind of security measures, working from home, everything spreading out to the rural and urban areas, maximize presence, do all kind of a continuity planning. But on top of it, we all should have a proper coverages also in terms of the proper insurance. So if I say because of this, disrupted supply chain, so obviously these things can be covered under marine policy. Mm-hmm. So if we will look from that aspect, so those losses can be covered from there. So obviously certain things can't be covered under BI, but definitely certain things can be covered there. So we can definitely minimize the losses, that I can say. Yes, one thing I would like to say, and in fact I will tell you, if I say the magnitude of BI losses suffered by corporates across the world is massive, had the insurers offered cover against BI losses, the whole capital of insurers and reinsurers would have been wiped out. I'm telling you, unless on a global scenario, every insurer will think such kind of a situation, and they will build the product accordingly. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work. I hope everyone would have remembered the terrorism attack happened in Bombay, and after that, huge losses with United India and New India, and after that, how the terrorism pool have been created, and how every insurance company have been asked to put a certain amount of their premium to the terrorism pool, so that any such kind of a event should not, treated in a manner that one insurance company getting completely bankrupted. So this kind of a, outbreak, still a lot more has to be done. Still the reinsurance actuaries have to work together. We as an insurance broking company in India working with Lloyds and with different top actuaries in UK to design some short-term products, but it is still under confidential discussion. Once that will be framed, then we may come with with the reinsurance support in India, and we'll find some carriers to sell, and definitely we will come out with those things later.
Thanks Manoj. Thanks a lot. Moving to Sanjeev. Sanjeev, thanks for your opening remarks and depicting vividly how we have been impacted. My first question to you, Sanjeev, is India has grown into a pool of global car makers and a few indigenous players. But with the impact of COVID-19 on car market, they're facing severe contraction and uncertainties in the current scenario. So with a shrinking customer base and a shift preference to the digital world, automobile industry has come under a spot of bother. Kindly share your views how you see the business panning out currently.
I think so. I would say that Indian automotive industry was really under tremendous pressure for the last 18 months or so. The last year itself was not that good for the Indian industry, automobile industry, because a lot of players have really entered, global players entered into the market, and the Indian market was eroded by those new entrants, and the Indian business were really impacted because most of these vendors were getting the material imported from outside and were assembling and issuing the material over here in India. The basic problem became is that now with this particular COVID-19, which has come up as a big issue to automobile guys, things have really gone into bad shape. People are not very clear how exactly the market is going to behave in the coming days, because one quarter has really been wiped out. The month of March, which was always a big business time for the market, because they were giving huge discounts during the March season to inventories to go out of it, the things. Apart from that, the BS4 thing which has become BS6, which has been put over here. There was a lot of inventories lying of BS4 with the guys, and Supreme Court of India has only given 10 days to sell the things after the lockdown was over. So I don't think so people are able to really flush out the inventory which they were carrying. I was reading in one of the news that Maruti itself has written off 125 crores of BS4 of inventory with them. So the situation for the automobile industry is not going to be as smooth as it was, I think, so 24 months before or so. Yeah. And more than that, I think so what exactly happened that because of this electrical vehicle being coming and there was a buzzword that electric vehicle is going to take over. A lot of companies have started moving on to the development work onto the electrical vehicles. And there was a lot of investment made into it. But with this new thing which has come into the market, that people are not very clear. There are salary cards over there. People are running out of cash. Everybody is conserving the cash now with that. Because everywhere the market is talking about that people should conserve the cash and they should look into it. They should cut down on their unnecessary expenses and really should see that how to utilize the cash with them. People are not going to really buy the high-end cars, which we are talking about 10 lakhs or so. So it is going to be a big, tough job for the automobile market as of now to see how exactly they have to do, because those were the cars which were giving some big profits to the guys. Small time cars doesn't have that much margin into it, because those are only being taken care of by the guys who move from a two-wheeler to three-wheeler, to two-wheeler to four-wheeler sort of thing. So that is one thing which is coming up. And now what we are looking for and the industry is looking for is that people might come up to purchase a small cars because there is no movement of these private vehicles, public vehicles like buses are not there, metros are not there. And God knows that people will, how the industry of this travel industry is going to work, whether things will be there in the market or not. So the automobile makers are thinking that there will be a surge in requirements for the two-wheelers and the small cars with a very lower price point, where the things will be, and people will try to buy that thing instead of buying the vehicle. Second way is that the industry will be, the second-hand car market might boom up. Last year, in the financial year 1920, there is a boost of nearly 40% into the second-hand car market, which has come up over here. So these are some things which are going to be there. And the basic problem in India on automobile industry is that being labor-intensive organizations, all these automobile industries in India was labor-intensive because we were having a cheaper labor as compared to the countries outside India. A lot of automation was missing into the automobile manufacturers. I should say the tier 1, tier 2 suppliers were not having that much automation. OEMs did have a lot of automation into their plant, but the others were not having that particular thing. Now, the cost of your fixed cost is really remaining same. And on top of it, the social distancing, everything has really put in so much pressure onto the people that the cost is going above the roof. Yeah. We have to understand how exactly you have to do, because your volumes has dropped by 70% or 80% in this particular moment. 3 months have gone without any sale into the market.
Absolutely.
Dealerships are not opening. Dealerships are not able to really cope up the cost they have to incur for running the dealership. So it is going to be a very different shape, I think so. So now some companies have already started selling the digital cars. So, digital, they should, anybody can buy the car on digital platform, selecting the color, model, everything over there, and the people will be shipping the material from the OEMs will be shipping directly to those particular things. So those are the things I think so. The industry is going to happen. Uncertainty is still there in the market. Nobody is aware how whether their purchases will ramp up or whether it will going to be the same thing. We are hoping up that okay, there will be the new festival season is going to be there onsetting from October onwards. People might come up with a tendency of Indian people are that they buy a lot of things during this season or festival season. Automobile makers are just keeping their fingers crossed for that particular thing, that the market booms up and we are able to back on the track. But at least the first 6 months is going to be very tight for everybody. People, I don't know how will they be able to capture, because the manpower cost is going to remain same. Big four, what's available with them. So all those things, particular issues are there still with the market, and nobody has an answer as of now.
Sure. Thanks, Sanjeev. Only one silver lining, Sanjeev, I picked up from the media is that the silver lining is talking about earlier in the pre-COVID, there was a clear inclination going towards shared mobility. But now with the COVID and the health factors and safety concerns, personal mobility is also taking up quite a bit of a thrust. So maybe the resurgence of going for cars again will come back, hopefully.
The other point which is going to come up is now the work from home facility, because if you really see this shared facility was available only with the IT industries which are there. But IT industries have taken a call that they will not be opening their offices till September of this year. If that continues and if they keep on working from work from home, things is there with them, we will not be able to really say that that particular thing will pick up. Yes, we are putting our fingers crossed for that particular job that, okay, small car industry might come up, people might go for it. As you rightly said, people will not be liking to do any sharing onto it. So that way, only thing is that, but nobody is going to invest into a big car. Nobody is going to invest into, nobody is going to change the car. We used to change our car every 4 years. But in this situation, nobody is going to change that particular thing. We are looking forward to the government if they are really coming up with the facility that, okay, the car policy, the scrap policy which they were talking about, that after 15 years somebody has to scrap his car positively, and 10 years after the diesel car is being scrapped out. If that is being made mandatory, forcefully it is being done mandatory, yes, there are chances that survival of the automobile industry might come up. Until unless that particular part is being done, it is going to be a very difficult time for the automobile makers.
Agree, Sanjeev. Agree. Thanks a lot, Sanjeev. Moving to Mudit. Mudit, thanks for your opening remarks. You aptly summed up the threat versus opportunity, and and also painted the grim picture of disruption of the ecosystem, be it the transporters, the distribution channels. Thanks for giving us those insights. My first question to you, Mudit, is the speed of packaging players' recovery will be differentiated largely by the segment, depending on the degree of disruption among the segment's customers and the challenge to these different players' supply chains. What are some of the actions packaging companies are considering in this respect? Over to you, Mudit.
Thanks, Prasenjit. Thanks for the question. I think, so, what is happening is, I think, if we were to look at it purely from the perspective of the environment or the scenario that we are dealing with right now, then see, packaging, okay, so before you even come to that, packaging is used across all kind of products, right? Now, whether they fall under the essential goods category or non-essential goods category, but packaging material is used. Now, there was a time when the government said, yes, we'll allow the movement of only essential goods. Things like, whether it's food items and, that maybe milk items, etc., right? Because there was a question of, survival, I would say, at that point in time. Now, of course, when we started operating in that time, we, of course, working at a very low capacity because we were supplying only to those customers of ours who operated in that area, who operated in that domain. Now, the challenge, fundamental challenge in the entire supply chain, I have already talked about the transportation and the logistics. At the same time, it was also about the inventories. Now, good or bad. Now we can always, be wiser in the hindsight. Every organization had typically worked on optimizing the inventories, because that's where the money was locked, that was where the capital was locked, and everybody wanted to optimize the inventories. Be it RM, be it packaging material, whatever that might have been. So all our customers had also, optimized on their packaging material inventory. So while they had their finished product, but they did not have the packaging material. I hope I'm making the point very, very clear.
Yeah.
Right. So what happened was that as a result of it, suddenly they found themselves, not being able to ship out their product, even if they wanted to, even if they were ready. As I said, supply chain got disrupted completely. Of course, the action that we took was what is more important, what takes priority. I mean, sorry to say, but does packaging of a non-essential item like maybe a perfume, does that take priority, or does packaging of wheat flour take priority? Of course, the latter take priority. So you start supplying to those kind of customers, right? So that's where the segmentation of the customer starts coming in.
Yeah.
Right. So you start working with them. You see, you try to figure out ways of somehow ensuring that the product, our product, which is packaging material, reaches those customers of ours, so that in turn they can send out the material that they have to send out to the market. The biggest, and you rightly hit the point, the supply chain was disrupted in a very, very big way. Segmentation helped only to the extent of prioritizing and saying, okay, what is it that we need to pick up right now? What is it that we need to start servicing right now? And what can probably come in as priority 2, priority 3, and so on and so forth, right? Now, if I were to look at it, what does it imply for us? What does it mean, going forward, let's say, what does it hold for us in future? Although we had also already started doing some bit of it, but I think, now is a time when we'll be very, very seriously looking at these kind of things, and not only packaging players, I would say a lot of suppliers and customers would start integrating their systems. So at least that dependency on the physical movement of the paper, etc., which used to be there, that goes away. Typically, in a brick and mortar business like ours, the physical aspect of movement of goods cannot be taken away. That's a harsh reality. You cannot deliver it over, an internet bandwidth. The physical movement of the product has to happen.
Sure.
So, however, what you can do is you can start integrating the systems. You can start looking at, a better and a more efficient information flow, at least so that, your organizations are better prepared.
Yeah.
We've always heard of situations, vendor managed inventory. I think, these have been taught in management schools for times immemorial now. But I think going forward, that is going to become actually, a norm if it was not already done. People will, I think automotive industry had used it very well. Other industries will start using it more often now. They will start looking at, how can it, see, I think the question being that, is how do you ensure minimum disruption to your supply chain? So you start figuring out these kind of ways. How to ensure that the product is available to you as and when you want. Maybe even if it is at the cost of, sub-optimized inventory level, but you would do it. Because the cost of disruption is far higher than the cost of not having the material available to you, I think.
True.
So from that perspective, I think, some of these optimizations that we talked about earlier, or, we used to take pride in, they might go away, at least for the time being, till things are back to normal, till people start thinking that, yes, we can again start optimizing, or maybe, optimization will start factoring in these kind of exigencies and scenarios, I would say.
Agree, Mudit. Yeah, definitely will go away in the foreseeable future. Thank you, Mudit. I will take your help, Komal. If you can pick up questions from the question bank, which has come from the audience, and if you can read it out, and also please read out to whom it is addressed.
Yes. So we have question from Mr. Mudit Agarwal, which is from Dr. Vivek Pachori, and the question is that what are your views towards young generation or freshers, that how should they prepare themselves for corporate life with COVID, so that they can be prepared towards this tough 2020 and 21. And he's requesting to take this question as this is the real life issue which young generation is going to face. So over to you, Mr. Mudit Agarwal.
Thanks, Komal, and thanks, Dr. Pachori, for the interesting question. Let me answer in a slightly different way, and maybe this the question that you're asking. or you can probably repose the question to me. I would go back to the way, don't take it otherwise. I would go back to the way, we typically educate our youngsters in schools and colleges, and how we prepare them for the world that, awaits them outside those boundary walls or outside the portals of those colleges. Typically, they are prepared for, foreseen situation that, if this is the situation, this is how you react, this is the situation, this is how you react, and minimize the risk. Typically, that's how they are taught. That is how, management schools teach them, that to react to a situation, and that's how they're prepared to deal with the world outside. Now, what has happened is that the scenario that we have now, or we are going through, the pandemic, as a result of pressures, or be it, season, no has actually gone through. Sorry. So no one has gone through it, and hence the situation becomes even more difficult. So what is the bottom line? I think, to my mind, Dr. Pachauri, the bottom line is, as an individual, as a professional, how prepared are you to deal with situations which you have not encountered before? Are you able to think on your feet? Are you able to apply your learnings, maybe from somewhere else, but in the situation that you are dealing with, which is actually, no one has actually experienced that. I think that is what needs to be taught to people. So, the youngsters or the freshers who are coming out of colleges, they need to be, prepared for it, both at an emotional level as well as at, maybe professional level, in terms of their skill sets as well. That if they encounter something which is unprecedented, something which they not have, they should not feel deterred or threatened. They should rather look at the positive side of it and see how they can come out of that situation and actually make it an opportunity. That's how I would react to it.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for such an explanation. Now the question is for Mr. Jay Prakash, that how can we measure consumers' behavior and analyze consumers on sitting in front of PC screen? So over to you, sir, Mr. Jay Prakash.
Thank you so much, Komal, for this question. Certainly, this is one thing which we need to understand for any business. Very critical to understand the customer sentiment, and at the same time, we need to also analyze whether the person who is on your website, is it actually a person? Is he spending the time? So what we do is to understand or to actually differentiate between the humans and non-humans, and then further do the analysis. We do track the user behavior on the phone. So for that, we do a lot of tracking. First of all, whether the person who is coming on my web page is actually coming from which browser. So if he's rotating his mouse, whether the browser signatures are there, on which page is he spending a lot of time. So all these are the stats which we collect. So this is also known as RAM in the industry. Many of you must be knowing about it. It's called real user monitoring. And these stats, basically, it's a combination of tools which works to get this data collected, and further you can analyze it in the backend into feeding it into a Spark system or Hadoop system, just to analyze the complete user heat map, what we call it. So that's where we do the user behavior analysis. It is just a brief. I mean, I can certainly talk about this.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. So the next question is for Mr. Manoj, that when the ecosystem is changing, industry and products are changing, so how do you overcome fears like not being able to innovate or losing to a competition? Over to you, Mr. Manoj.
See, obviously, it's not a matter of what do I say, compete. It's a kind of a, so I will take this entire thing in a different ways. because of this situation now, business models are going to be changed. Flexible resource mode and HR practices will evolve. So when you are searching something and the things are getting evolving, so obviously what I have mentioned in the earlier things also, because of this kind of a situation, the things are getting evolved, and we all will have a kind of a, what do I say, something like this, someone will not act quickly, will will not be able to make up the kind of a situation where we are right where we are in. So I took it in a more positive manner, and I, I I I take this I take this for the betterment of the entire ecosystem itself. It's not a kind of a thing that it is disrupting thing. It is in fact in this situation we are evolving, and definitely everything, all the products will get evolved out of these situations. This is not the first time when we encountered here. This has been happened already in the past also. And obviously the kind of a scale we are experiencing right now is a different, but we should be very adaptive for this.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So the next question, I think we have between us Mr. Shantaram. So this question is for you. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay. So the question is that it is COVID, due to due to the COVID situation, there is recession in the automobile market, or is it the Japan market who is continuing in recession from 2008, where most of business is depending upon the export business? This is question from Mr. Ajay Kumar Gupta.
Okay. Can you unmute him, because I haven't understood the question actually.
Just a second, sir. Do we have Mr. Ajay Kumar Gupta between us?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got the answer. It was there in a chat window, and I want to thanks to Mr. Sanjeev Jain for a quick response. I got the chat window.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I have another question for Mr. Shantaram.
Yes.
Seeing the trends like work from home and remotely working of the employees, how much ready are you to deploy virtual desktop infrastructure?
Okay. So we ourselves have been big promoter and user of both the solutions, ourselves as well as for our customers. So we're pretty much ready. As far as virtual desktop solution is concerned, we offer that as a service from 2 to 3 different service providers. So if any of the attendees on this session, wants to engage with us post the session, you're most welcome.
Okay, so we have a question for Mr. Sanjeev Jain. That how do you see the work from home culture? Is it going to be the next way of working, and will this be giving equivalent productivity and deliverables for both IT and non-IT functions?
So I think it's a very good question, and being in the manufacturing organization where work from home was not a norm previously, but with this 50 days lockdown, we have really seen that work from home gives you more productivity as compared to the productivity which you get during the 8 hours. During this period, I think so the IT and non-IT functions, if I say IT has really put in more than 15 hours of working during this period, because they were helping all users in their connectivity issues, their accessibility issues they got related to ERPs, email, any other things. So I think so IT has really worked more during this period. And I would say that the non-IT functions also has really delivered much better as compared to what they were able to do within the 8 hours period. Because a lot of time you really waste when you are traveling from one place to other place and you are being tired. But when you are sitting at home, you are able to utilize that particular time also and do it. I could give an example of it that being an manufacturing organization, we have a lot of engineering drawing work which happens. And we were not able to really do this drawing work during the lockout period. But since that things were getting extended day by day, what we decided that we'll move all the workstations which were lying in our R&D departments individually to the users' places so that they are able to continue with their work. But at the same time, there was an issue of the security of the data because we carry a lot of designs which are very confidential to the organization. So we took up all the security measures while moving the design stations to the one's workstation, that they should not be able to use the USB drives for writing those purposes. They should not be able to mail those things to anybody else. So all those things we have taken care of, but we utilize that time in a good way in all places. So I would say that work from home culture, which was a norm only for the IT companies, have really taught other companies also that work from home can really work in the ways come. And we really need to prepare ourselves for these things because as per the government mandate, in case somebody is found positive in an organization, that organization goes into a quarantine mode for 14 days. If that happens with an organization, we really need to see that how work from home can be taken care and people should be able to give their best to the organization. I hope it has answered your thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So this is the last question for the session. And the question is to Mr. Jamil. Is service providers during this pandemic have both expanded their portfolios and re-engineered the existing services? And what are the new services that NTT NetMagic has introduced or key innovations to existing portfolios? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Komal. Thanks for the question. So the major services which we have, just give me a second, there's an echo in the voice. Yeah, so sorry, so there's some different. So do you hear me?
Jamil, we are saying, yeah, but there's still echo, Jamil.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
So, so we are fortunate enough, like apart from the regular services which NetMagic have, like cloud, managed services, managed security and all. So we have seen surge in the cloud demand because a lot of companies have started adopting cloud as a DR option. So we have seen a lot of surge there. Apart from that, security is the biggest concern because a lot of people are working from home these days. Endpoint security, then the confidential information on the web is one of the concerns for the companies. We have solutions around them. Like we have a zero trust where you cannot allow anybody to enter your network till he verifies him. So we have a solution around zero trust. We have solution with CloudSec where you can see if your confidential data is available in the dark web or outside your network and all. So these 3-4 things, and we have seen people adopting more and more of managed services when they don't go to their offices and all. They want their operations up and running, as data center is one of the essential services, and we are working 24/7 in this COVID situation also. So we have extended that support to customers because we are full scale operational as of now, and we continue to be. So when organizations start adopting such kind of services, definitely they can much more focus on their business areas and all. That is from my side as answer, I think.
Thank you so much, sir. So now we'll come to an end, and it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. And I, on behalf of NetMagic, NTT, and PVR team, including the volunteers, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to the honorable delegates. And I would like to Mr. Girish Sharma, who is GM Products heading product portfolio in NTT NetMagic, to come up and give his closing remarks to all of us.
Thank you, Komal. I hope I am very clearly audible over there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So it was such a pleasure to hear so many eminent panelists today, right from Mr. Sanjeev to Mr. Manoj, Mudit, Jay, and Nishant. It was so wonderful with their views. The core idea of here, the digital vaccination of COVID-19. So I'm so blessed, I really heard wonderful experiences here. I really saw that, Manoj spoke about that, how they were ready for resilience by design. I really want to connect it with one important thing, we as an IT industry, we are really, very important industry. I read it somewhere, it was said that we should pay for staying healthy, right? And IT industry is one industry which really pays for staying healthy. We pay for uptime and we penalize for the downtime, right? So resiliency was always something that we had been discussing, we at NetMagic, we really discuss resiliency in each and every design with our customers, and, it has been at the core. So people like us, that's why we started a work from home even much before the lockdown was announced nationally. We had that culture. I see that my customers, this is just like the digital vaccination as we are discussing, and we heard so wonderful views from all the panelists and experiential learning on ground. We are also seeking, our customers are coming back and they are saying that, we want many more things to be always available. What I can summarize, from what and all we heard from today, we at NetMagic, we have been practicing so many things that your IT infrastructure should be always resilient, always available, right? The core thing is, we heard today from so many panelists that how they responded to a situation, how they adapted. This COVID-19 situation, which has been forced upon us, one of the panelists mentioned it as a digital transformation agent. I was so happy to hear that. Yes, but there is another perspective. COVID-19 was just one of the reasons, which stopped your availability. But actually, we have always been practicing being more and more available, and COVID-19 situation was one of the tests. And, I'm really so happy and so glad to hear the views that how the CIOs have done the digital vaccination. They have emerged, they have adapted. But this situation has actually changed the markets, customer expectations. We really heard all that from our panelists. It was so wonderful to hear them. We at NetMagic, we really, we also are all on the lines of the CIOs, which we have heard today. We really saw that, you can actually do the digital vaccination on many core pillars that we have already been practiced, right? Mr. Sanjeev Jain spoke about moving to cloud. We have been practicing hybrid cloud for many years. As far as I remember now, 13 years, the cloud practice we have been doing, right? So hybrid cloud is the word, right? So how do you become always available on digital transformation? The hybrid cloud was the way, right? Your network should always be available was already a general principle which we had been putting in design. We heard from so many people, Jay said about the call center experience, So, how are you doing your people and processes? How your data is continuously available to you, including people, process, technology. When I come to technology, I talk about, say, mostly disaster recovery side because I'm from IT infrastructure. So how your data continuity, including people, processes, and technology is there. And most important thing, which I heard from the panelists about security, the fourth and the most important pillar of digital vaccination of not only COVID-19 and of each and every situation, security, right? So you heard Jamil also talked about some of the security solutions that we are ready with. When the situation changed, I heard from many people, they asked the question that work from home culture might pose new challenges to the security. No problem. We are ready to address with multiple security services over there. And we as entire IT industry and, entire IT fraternity together, ready to adapt to such challenges And actually, one of the beautiful things which I heard about consumer behavior. Yes, the consumer behavioral sciences have now, they are just rebooting themselves. They want to rethink that how will consumers behave in a different way, looking at the pandemic situation. And, the key thing is resilience is all about focusing on our consumers and how will we respond to them much faster, even if, the COVID or any other such a thing has happened which is stopping our availability. So on that note, it was really wonderful hearing all of them. Our take is from an IT infrastructure perspective, the resilience continues to roll around hybrid clouds, the network availabilities, the data continuity, and the security. And I'm so glad that IT industry has always been paying for staying healthy. And so this digital vaccination for COVID-19 and their adoption from the CIOs is really, very commending. It was so pleasure to hear all of them. Thank you everyone for being with us today here. And it was wonderful listening to all the panelists and the views presented here. Thank you. Over to you, Komal.
Thank you so much, sir. So I can see a few questions in chat box. We'll make sure to answer all of them offline after this event. And now I would like to call upon Mr. Gunjan Datta to share his closing remarks with all of us.
Thank you, Komal. Thanks a lot. First of all, I'm really glad and I feel so blessed that we get this type of panelists with us. NetMagic as an OEM to us, and the blessing which you did for past 2 hours with the effort. I am really glad, and I'm really looking forward to work closely and more aggressively with in the market. And we will wanted to thanks to entire PVR family who supported us, as well as the summer interns who are coming from ITS Ghaziabad. They have done a fabulous job starting from day one to doing this particular innovative idea, and all the banners, all the posters, making all the noise across the social media. I'm really thankful. And with this note, I wanted to close this with a very small token of appreciation and the things that PVR wants us to give you as a value. And this is a small journey I wanted to play in front of all of you. Thank you so much once again.
Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome someday. বড় আশা করে এসেছি গো কাছে ডেকে নাও, বড় আশা করে এসেছি গো কাছে ডেকে নাও, ফেরায়ও না জননী বড় আশা করে এসেছি গো কাছে ডেকে নাও। We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Hey, hey, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall live in peace someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe. দিনহীনে কেহ চাহে না, তুমি তারে রাখিবে জানি গো, that we'll walk hand in hand someday.
And here we go with the violin solo.
আর আমি যে কিছু চাহিনে চরণ তলে বসে থাকিব, আর আমি যে কিছু চাহিনে জননী বলে শুধু ডাকিব, তুমি না রাখিলে গৃহ আর পাইব কোথায়? Deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday.
We shall overcome someday.
Oh yeah, deep in my heart,